Chapter 2. So you have the snapshots, Thunis drawled. I met his grey eyes across the breakfast table. 3 days had slipped by since my return from Hell's Acres. I had told him about the dream beneath the tree, and he had laughed. Yes, I replied. They came last night. Haven't had a chance to open them yet. Give them a good, careful study, if they aren't all failures. Perhaps you'll change your mind. Thunis smiled, sipped his coffee. I gave him the unopened envelope, and he quickly broke the seal and withdrew the pictures. He glanced at the first one, and the smile faded from his leonine face. He crushed out his cigarette. My God, man, look at this. I seized the glossy rectangle. It was the first picture of the tree, taken at a distance of 50 feet or so. The cause of Thunis's excitement escaped me. There it was, standing boldly on the hill, while below it grew the jungle of grass where I had lain. In the distance were my snow-capped mountains. There you are, I cried, the proof of my story. Look at it, Thunis snapped. The shadows, there are 3 for every rock, bush, and tree. He was right. Below the tree, spread in fan-like incongruity, lay 3 overlapping shadows. Suddenly I realized that the picture held an abnormal and inconsistent element. The leaves on the thing were too lush for the work of sane nature, while the trunk was bulged and knotted in the most abhorrent shapes. Thunis dropped the picture on the table. There is something wrong, I muttered. The tree I saw didn't look as repulsive as that. Are you sure? Thunis grated. The fact is, you may have seen many things not recorded on this film. It shows more than I saw. That's the point. There is something damnably out of place in this landscape, something I can't understand. The tree seems to suggest a thought, beyond my grasp. It is too misty, too uncertain, too unreal to be natural. He rapped nervous fingers on the table. He snatched the remaining films and shuffled through them rapidly. I reached for the snapshot he had dropped and sensed a touch of bizarre uncertainty and strangeness as my eyes absorbed its every detail. The flowers and weeds pointed at varying angles, while some of the grass grew in the most bewildering fashion. The tree seemed too veiled and clouded to be readily distinguished, but I noted the huge limbs and the half-bent flower stems that were ready to fall over, yet did not fall, and the many overlapping shadows. They were, altogether, very disquieting shadows, too long or short when compared to the stems they fell below to give one a feeling of comfortable normality. The landscape hadn't shocked me the day of my visit. There was a dark familiarity and mocking suggestion in it, something tangible yet distant as the stars beyond the galaxy. Thunis came back to Earth. Did you mention 3 suns in your dreaming orgy? I nodded, frankly puzzled. Then it dawned on me. My fingers trembled slightly as I stared at the picture again. My dream. Of course. The others are just like it, Thunis said. That same uncertainness, that suggestion. I should be able to catch the mood of the thing, see it in its real light, but it is too. Perhaps later I shall find out, if I look at it long enough. We sat in silence for some time. A thought came to me suddenly, prompted by a strange, inexplicable longing to visit the tree again. Let's make an excursion. I think I can take you there in half a day. You'd better stay away, replied Thunis, thoughtfully. I doubt if you could find the place again if you wanted to. Nonsense, I replied. Surely, with these photos to guide us. Did you see any familiar landmarks in them? His observation was uncanny. After looking through the remaining snaps carefully, I had to admit that there were none. Theunis muttered under his breath and drew viciously on his cigarette. A perfectly normal, or nearly so, picture of a spot apparently dropped from nowhere. Seeing mountains at this low altitude is preposterous. But wait. He sprang from the chair as a hunted animal and raced from the room. I could hear him moving about in our makeshift library, cursing volubly. Before long he reappeared with an old leather-bound volume. Theunis opened it reverently and peered over the odd characters. "What do you call that?" I inquired. "This is an early English translation of the Chronicle of Narth, written by Rudolf Jägler, a German mystic and alchemist who borrowed some of his lore from Hermes Trismegistus, the ancient Egyptian sorcerer. There is a passage here that might interest you, might make you understand why this business is even further from the natural than you suspect. Listen. So in the year of the black goat, there came unto Narth a shadow that should not be on earth, and that had no form known to the eyes of earth, and it fed on the souls of men, they that it gnawed being lured and blinded with dreams, till the horror and the endless night lay upon them. Nor did they see that which gnawed them, for the shadow took false shapes that men know or dream of, and only freedom seemed waiting in the land of the 3 sons. But it was told by priests of the old book that he who could see the shadow's true shape and live after the seeing might shun its doom and send it back to the starless gulf of its spawning. This none could do save through the gem, wherefore did Cnefer the high priest keep that gem sacred in the temple. And when it was lost with Phrynes, he who braved the horror and was never seen more, there was weeping in Narth. Yet did the shadow depart sated at last, nor shall it hunger again, till the cycles roll back to the year of the black goat. Theunis paused while I stared, bewildered. Finally he spoke. "Now, Single, I suppose you can guess how all this links up. There is no need of going deep into the primal law behind this business, but I may as well tell you that according to the old legends, this is the so-called Year of the Black Goat, when certain horrors from the fathomless outside are supposed to visit the earth and do infinite harm. We don't know how they'll be manifest, but there's reason to think that strange mirages and hallucinations will be mixed up in the matter. I don't like the thing you've run up against, the story or the pictures. It may be pretty bad, and I warn you to look out. But first, I must try to do what old Jägler says, to see if I can glimpse the matter as it is. Fortunately, the old gem he mentions has been rediscovered. I know where I can get at it. We must use it on the photographs and see what we see. It's more or less like a lens or prism, though one can't take photographs with it. Someone of peculiar sensitiveness might look through and sketch what he sees. There's a bit of danger, and the looker may have his consciousness shaken a trifle, for the real shape of the shadow isn't pleasant and doesn't belong on this earth, but it would be a lot more dangerous not to do anything about it. Meanwhile, if you value your life and sanity, keep away from that hill, and from the thing you think is a tree on it. I was more bewildered than ever. How can there be organized beings from the outside in our midst? I cried. How do we know that such things exist? You reason in terms of this tiny earth, Theunis said. Surely you don't think that the world is a rule for measuring the universe. There are entities we never dream of floating under our very noses. Modern science is thrusting back the borderland of the unknown and proving that the mystics were not so far off the track. Suddenly I knew that I did not want to look at the picture again. I wanted to destroy it. I wanted to run from it. Theunis was suggesting something beyond. A trembling cosmic fear gripped me and drew me away from the hideous picture, for I was afraid I would recognize some object in it. I glanced at my friend. He was poring over the ancient book, a strange expression on his face. He sat up straight. Let's call the thing off for today. I'm tired of this endless guessing and wondering. I must get the loan of the gem from the museum where it is and do what is to be done. As you say, I replied. Will you have to go to Croydon? He nodded. Then we'll both go home, I said decisively.